It's good to be back here. Because of people like Phil, we could all think that undeniably, unequivocally, indisputably, there's been a lot of hype about WebRTC. And when I go around talking to customers and prospects around the world, I'm getting asked questions about, is that hype justified? And so my talk is really going to be about that. Is it justified with what we're seeing in all the industry? Obviously, for us in this conference here, we all believe in it deeply, or else we wouldn't be here. But we're a little bubble. We're not like the rest of the world. And it's important to understand what other people are saying. And I just wanted to, when I want to do this keynote and I want to figure out what I want to say about that, the best thing I could do was create parallels to VoIP, because I was part of all that VoIP industry in 1998 and 1997 when I first came to Dialogic, and that was first starting. And I think it's very important to understand the parallels because they're very applicable here. And that's really what I'm going to talk about today. There's hype curves. If you know the hype curve, the peak of inflated expectations, and then there's a trough of disillusionment. I don't think we're in the trough of disillusionment at all, but we're definitely coming off the peak of inflated expectations, and maybe we'll never get to the trough. But there's a lot of hard work we have to do to keep going with WebRTC. So here's some of the parallels I thought about. Back with VoIP, people were calling it a seminal event. It's a once-in-a-lifetime event. This is my fifth once-in-a-lifetime event with telecom: mobile, VoIP, WebRTC, NFV, SDN. So I don't know if it's really a seminal event unless I'm a cat and I have 9 lives, and there's 4 more seminal events I'm going to go through in my career here. But it's important, and then it's revolutionary technology, like a wheel or a phone call in the first place is revolutionary technology. I don't know if, I think a phone call is revolutionary, but whether it's over Ethernet or the air or over copper maybe isn't really revolutionary. But the fact that the browser is built into you can call just from a browser, a URL, is pretty important, and I'll talk about that later on. There's also architecture scrambling in the beginning. When people create solutions for a new technology, they're building something on top of something else, and you might have some inefficiencies there. There clearly was a lot of that in the beginning of VoIP, and there's some of that going on now with WebRTC. I think we're getting to having built solutions built from the ground up with WebRTC in the first place. But there's clearly some of that in the beginning going on. And then we have true integrated communications. I remember in the beginning of VoIP, I was talking to analysts and saying, we're going to have real integrated unified communications because all the communications, email, et cetera, will be on one wire, one kind of network. And that was true. I'm not saying that wasn't true. It's clearly more true now. It was more true 5 years ago, and it's more true now with WebRTC. So I wasn't lying when I said any of that stuff, but it's clearly more integrated with WebRTC. We really need ecosystem as well for both things. There was a session this morning that Phil did about ecosystem. This is an actual graph he created of the WebRTC ecosystem. There's a lot of elements that are required so that the technology can succeed in the marketplace and people can have business solutions there. This is part of that report. And you can see there's a lot of companies, you probably can't see them because I can't see them, but there's a lot of companies that are part of the ecosystem already, and they all play an important role with rolling out a new technology. We can't just do point-to-point URL phone calls for the technology. It'll work, obviously, but it's not going to have it roll out to the general marketplace like that. So an ecosystem, really important. We have different stages of deployment that we're going through in the beginning. Sometimes it's like riding a roller coaster. You're on a roller coaster ride. Sometimes the use case might work perfect. Then the next day there's a different kind of a use case. It doesn't work that good because we're still trying to work through all the use cases. There's also a lot of proof of concepts going on, trials going on. And so people might be on 10, you might be 10 users doing some WebRTC trial in a company. And then you're not really getting more, and a lot happens in 6 months. You don't really hear anything. But then an order will come through for 200 people. There's a lot of that going on, and that's where we are today with WebRTC. So there's different stages of deployment, and it's natural for that to happen. Then finally, we have this hype cycle. Every new technology I know has a curve that looks like that. That's an actual curve I used in 1998 about the impact of VoIP on unified messaging. With the hype cycle, we hear things like there are millions of people that are WebRTC enabled today. We have millions of people that are WebRTC enabled today because they have browsers that have, like Chrome browser, that have WebRTC in it. Most of these people are not like us. Most of these people don't even know how to spell WebRTC. They don't know how to use it. They don't know what it means to them. And so those are kind of the root of some of the questions I get about, oh, there's millions of devices that are WebRTC enabled. How come we're not seeing more of a rollout? Well, because there needs to be services related to that. Somebody like my mother has a WebRTC browser because I just got her an Android phone. She doesn't know how to use it. If some service came in and it was from a company and they were going to service her better and said, just click here and make a phone call, and she did it, she would do it. And then she'd use WebRTC because she wouldn't even know about it. So those are the kind of things that we're all used to, and it's natural, similar characteristics as VoIP. When I was thinking about this presentation, I actually wanted to go back and look at some slides that I created in 1998. This was an actual slide I used in some of those, if you guys, any old people old enough remember, Internet World tours. They had like 20 Internet Worlds around the world, and Dialogic went around to like all of them, and I went to some of them. These are slides that we used back then. And if you look at the three key things here about how are you going to disseminate, roll out internet telephony technology, there were three key things we thought of back then. Access. Well, you need client devices that can handle it. We need interop with the existing infrastructures or even similar infrastructures, not a given that Ethernet would talk to each other back then. We need transport and signaling. Now, obviously, there was different transport and signaling in VoIP, but you still need to solve those problems back then. And then we needed multimedia services. And these were services that we talked about back then, video, conferencing, using the web for an IVR. These were all newfangled. We take this for granted today with VoIP, but back then, there were nothing like this. We just were making phone calls. So this was pretty controversial to say something like that. We obviously need quality of service too with VoIP. And here, we need service creation environment, which will be really the part of what I'm talking about here. We need services, these multimedia services, for WebRTC to really reach its peak. So if I create this slide again for WebRTC, it looks like this. I think when I was going through the other slide, you could see how it would relate to WebRTC. So what's changed here? Well, the colors have changed. Dialogic changed from Arial font to Calibri font. We have an IVVR, interactive voice and video response. Call centers are called contact centers now. But we still need services to realize the full potential of the technology. And we need services and environments to create the services so that we can do that. And obviously, we still need this stuff to work. We need quality of service. It's better, easier to do it today because the bandwidth is much easier. There's much more of it. It's not as hard to get that, so we can handle that better. And we need the network management of any of the solutions. So I want to go through a couple of applications with our partners that we've done with our partners, because I've been talking about the applications. One thing that Dialogic has seen when people are working with us, with our media server to build WebRTC-enabled applications, is video is a core element of most of all these activities that we have going on. Telestacks, probably most of you know Telestacks, one of the leading application servers out there. We did a press release with them last week and with NTT AT about a video collaboration service, and this is a kind of a network diagram that describes that. And there's a couple key aspects here. First of all, we talk to their application server with JSR 309, so it's an open standard way to talk to application servers. And then Telestacks built the gateway using their own signaling, obviously, but our media server as the media engine there. And then you can see how they're talking with WebSockets and things like that, and there's a video collaboration engine with the video users there. But we also have the right side of that diagram, which is about interacting with other parts of the network so that you don't just have just a WebRTC, little WebRTC sandbox. We need to talk to other parts of the network. So this is a good application in terms of thinking about how you're building something. Collaboration, it's a new kind of application, video collaboration application. Convergys is another one of our customers, worldwide messaging company. In this, they built an application with a media server, our media server underneath. When a phone call comes in through the LTE network, CMEX is their evaluated service platform. And they're using it through the API Connect to figure out where to save a voicemail. So it could go to an email or Dropbox or Facebook. If it goes into Facebook, you can see that there's a WebRTC way to call back to the user. So this is a way to enhance an existing application, have it go onto Facebook. It can save it on Facebook already, but then you can make a phone call back to the person using WebRTC. Really easy, just click on a link to do that. And then it goes through our media server again. So this is a great way to kind of provide more services to something that already exists. Unisys is another customer of ours. There's two things going on with Unisys. They're a big company. They have their own contact centers, obviously, for their customers. So they're looking at WebRTC as a way to enable better services in their contact center. So they would be building that themselves. But also they have evaluated services, and they typically play in Latin America and Europe with those service providers there. And they're looking at WebRTC as a way to enhance the applications, to bring video to things that they already have. So it's important for them to be able to do that. Apex is another one of our customers. The fact that they've built their application on Power Media enables them to easily add WebRTC as another type of client to whatever they already have today. So they have existing applications. You can read some of them here. If you wanted a WebRTC client to call into an existing application, all they really have to do is upgrade their media server, software-based media server. There's some key things here. Apex really wants to have any-to-any device be able to call into a conference. It's important that they can handle any kind of devices. So WebRTC, obviously, there's going to be more people starting to call in on WebRTC calls. They can create an ad hoc conference, just put a link in there, click on the link, and we can create a conference, a voice or video collaboration conference. And the SIP client licensing, you don't need to do that. I kind of was making fun about that before, but it really is important that you don't have to do a client. You don't have to have a SIP client. I've talked to people. In fact, last week I had a call with a university, and they are interested in creating a kind of a distance learning app. And I said, well, why do you want to do that on WebRTC? Why can't you can do that today? You can have your students build something like that. And he said it's pretty simple. I really don't want to have to deal with clients. I don't want to have to send students clients, and then some of them are on the wrong version of a software client. They just have to get the latest browser, and then they're done. And then we can do it. And so that is a really powerful part of WebRTC. You don't need clients. It may sound like a small thing, and I know it's not a seminal event, but it's very important that we don't have to do that. So are we going to wake up one day? I think we will wake up one day, and WebRTC will have gone on warp speed, and we'll have been there. And I feel like that happened in VoIP. There was a lot of the same stuff going on with VoIP. And then one day, we woke up, and VoIP was everywhere. TDM was declining at 30% a year, and VoIP is everywhere. IP PBXs dominate. There probably even make the other ones anymore. Applications. And this conference is all about applications. On the other side of that curtain, there's various companies that have applications out there. The ecosystem project that Phil was talking about, there's a lot of application partners in that ecosystem book. And then standards, interop. We need to interop with other things with WebRTC. As we interop with service providers, there's going to be other networks that we have to interop with. We have to figure out the roaming and billing aspects. Phil mentioned the legal intercept. These are all important for WebRTC to really take off fully. And then we have standard issues that we have to resolve. And this kind of is dragging on. This is some of the reasons WebRTC hasn't gone as forward as fast as some people may have liked. But this is normal. We went through the same thing with VoIP. In the beginning was H323. Then we had SIP and H323 wars. And then we figured it out, and it's all SIP today, although there's still people with H323. But standards are important to figure it out because it'll slow things down unnecessarily, but it's important to understand that, it's normal, and I don't think we shouldn't have expected things to go faster because this is normal to happen. We have second-gen architectures already being created with solutions, and there'll be more efficient projects and programs happening for WebRTC. And then finally, perhaps the most important thing is business useful. Dialogic CEO Kevin Cook did a keynote last time at this conference, and it was all about the business useful context. In a nutshell, business useful is really about if a new technology is cool, that's fine, but it will only get rolled out if it either makes things cheaper or it makes you money, or it provides a service that you couldn't do before. So it has to be useful for business in order to roll it out. And that's why the applications are so important. Because if it's all just about making a point-to-point phone call, a peer-to-peer phone call, we have that already, and it's called Skype. So why would something else just do that, okay? So it really needs to be business useful about the applications. And we're starting to see that today, and I know there's lots of proof of concepts and trials and actual deployments that have gone on towards this, and we'll get more and more, and we'll start rolling the ball down the hill. So is it really as easy as that? Well, I would say yes and no. Yes, because if people do all that, if all of us together in this room do all that, it will happen. But no, because there's a lot of work to do. There's a lot of work we have to do behind the scenes. We have to interoperate with all the different networks. We have to get the standards resolved. We have to figure out all the issues with dealing with service providers, like I talked about there. So we need to do all that. And if we do all that, then we will succeed here. And so that's really all I want to say today. Put it in perspective. If some of you are hearing the justifiable kind of issues, it's all in perspective, and I feel like we are just on the cusp. And a year from now, we will have lots and lots and lots of rolled out deployments of WebRTC. So thank you very much.